So let's talk about Spider-Man's first solo outing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Spider-Man Homecoming, which, after watching Captain America Civil War, I did not care what they gave me. I thought Peter Parker in that movie and Spider-Man was fantastic. That was one of the coolest appearances of Spider-Man ever in a movie. And I knew that they were going to make a movie about him solo in this universe after taking two different iterations of Spider-Man and trashing both of them. Sony is interesting because I'm glad that Marvel actually, whenever Marvel incorporated him into this universe, they were really strict in being part of this movie making with Sony, because they're using their characters and their names in this movie. And Sony has had that issue of always, with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies and with the Mark Webb Amazing Spider-Man movies, they have always started out fine, and then by the last one, Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 2, they make it very convoluted and made it to where it's kind of unapproachable to make another one. And Sony is still trying to make movies in the Spider-Man universe that are apparently not going to be part of the MCU. Venom, which comes out this year, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which at least that's a cartoon, so that doesn't have to be connected. But Venom, I'm really, really curious about that because I thought the trailer looked really weird. I don't know what to think of that. But regardless, Sony had problems with this franchise. Sony was very good at pushing it into the ground after they started it great with the other iterations. And whatever you think of all the first 5 Spider-Man films, it really, I guess I'm still glad, even though I'm really pissed that the Amazing Spider-Man franchise is done, because I'm one of those few people that absolutely love that franchise, and despite its problems, just loved the shit out of both of them. And I love them more than, like, I love Andrew Garfield probably the most out of the Spider-Man actors. But like I said in the Civil War review, that I think Tom Holland gives Andrew Garfield a run for his money, because Tom Holland is a great new different iteration than the other two, and he is fantastic in this movie as well, like he was in Civil War. I love the fact that we get a different Spider-Man on film, where this character, this iteration really just wants to be wanted. He wants to be an Avenger, and getting a taste of the action in Civil War, I love the fact that he is trying his, like you see at the beginning of the movie after the fight, he texts Happy Hogan all the time, trying to tell him, like, when's our next fight? When am I going to be an Avenger? And 6 months pass, and he's just a normal kid. And I love the fact that he wants to be something more than what he is, because of one taste of action. And I love how the story incorporates that, where he's trying to be something bigger. Like, he keeps telling everybody, "Oh, I've got the Stark internship. Like, I can't go to the decathlon, or I can't hang out with you, Ned." Like, stuff like that. Where he's giving up all this stuff as a kid for doing something that might not even happen. He just got the taste of the action, so he wants to have more of it, but he's afraid if he does hang out with somebody, like hang out with Ned or join, like, the decathlon again, he might not get his chance again. And I think that that's just, it's simple, but it really works. Like, this character is incredibly likable. And him being an actual kid in this movie is great. Like, being a 15-year-old, like, it's cool because he's an awkward teen. He's fun, he's funny. He does stuff differently than the other two. Like, he is really great as Spider-Man, and he's got a lot of quips. He is definitely trying to be the most accurate in terms of, like, humor to the other ones. And I love the villain in this movie, Adrian Toomes, played by none other than Michael fucking Keaton. Michael Keaton, just, I'm so glad he's in this movie. Like, and I love how he's in another outfit, in another superhero outfit that is kind of similar to Batman or Birdman, the Vulture. Like, I think that that's really cool. I love how we got him in another movie, like superhero movie, where he is donning a suit similar to the other ones. That's really, really cool. And Adrian Toomes is really interesting in this movie. I like this villain a lot. This villain is great because he gets under Peter Parker's skin in a way that usually villains again don't do that in these type of movies. And he's not really a villain from a standpoint of the other Marvel movies. That's what makes him one of the best ones, I think, because this character, all he's doing is he's selling like equipment from the aliens and the robots from all the fights in the Avengers movies and all that, and he's using them to profiteer them. And he's not trying to take over the world. He's just making money, and he's making money for his family. And he was, even though he never actually met Tony Stark, he was completely ousted by him because everything, all the cleanup went under his jurisdiction, where then Adrian Toomes had nothing, but then him and his lackeys that he has took the equipment that they already had and made more of it and still profiteered throughout the years after the first Avengers. And I think that that's really cool. And I love how he digs under Peter Parker's skin, because there's a scene at the end towards the end of the movie where Adrian Toomes, before the confrontation, Adrian Toomes and Peter Parker are talking, and Toomes says, "Why do you want to be like Tony Stark? Tony Stark, people like him, they give us the scraps. They don't benefit. We don't benefit from them. They benefit from us. They take everything we had," and they did for Adrian Toomes. I think that that's really great, and it works incredibly well, because at the end, whenever Peter Parker gets his chance to finally become an Avenger, he gets that new suit. He tells Tony no, and you see how it worked building up to him just wanting to be part of this team. And then in the end, whenever Toomes told him, like, why do you want to be a part of him? Because you've got, nobody looks out for the little guy. And that plays in the dialogue whenever Tony Stark asks why Peter rejects being introduced at the end to everybody in the world. He says, I want to be on the ground for a little while. And I thought that that was really cool that the villain affected him like that. I thought that was really awesome. I thought that that's cool that he has legitimate ways. He had a way to make Peter Parker think differently about, do I really need to be a part of this clamor? And I think that that's another cool way of interpreting the Avengers in this movie. They have such a different way of interpreting them each time. Like how in Civil War they interpreted them as not really heroes. Like they've had so many people die because of them. And in this one, I like the fact that you do need to look out for the little guy. And I like how in the end Peter Parker denies being part of it for now, because of Toomes' words. And I think that that really made Toomes a great villain, and it made Peter a great hero. Like moments like that are fantastic in this movie. The scene, another scene that really just gets me every time, like it's so good, is whenever, after the conversation towards the end where Peter and Toomes are talking about like why Tony Stark doesn't care about people like us. Whenever Toomes destroys the building and it falls down on Peter's stuck in there, sees the image in the water of half his mask and half his face. And the scene from earlier, whenever Tony Stark says, if you can't do anything without the suit, why do you need it? Or why should you have it? And that goes back in his head again. And then Peter, without his suit, without the glamorous Spider-Man suit that Tony gave him with his old suit, he like gets the strength to pull up the building, parts of the building debris off of him, and it felt like a really genuine superhero moment where he became a hero, where he thought, this is how I'm gonna be heroic, is that if I can't even do it without the suit, what can I do? So he does it without the suit that Tony gave him, and it does a great character moment. Like, it is really great. And I really think moments like that, like you said, are fantastic. And I think the humor is great. I think all these characters are really funny. I think that they all have different personalities, different spunk to them. His friends are great. Ned's great. Michelle's funny. I think that they all have a lot of quirks, like from like 80s movies. And you could tell that they're purposely trying to do that, because they even have an 80s homecoming dance in this movie, where it's 80s music. and I think that they really just are pretty good. Like they're really really solid side characters that are really fun and really entertaining. And Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr., like always, is still fantastic in this movie, like he is in the other ones. I like how he's not in the movie much, and I like how he's a father figure to Peter in this movie. But like a father who's dissonant and not close. I think that that's a cool way of bringing Peter Parker into this world without giving him everything at once. It gives him, like, this movie's giving him the arc of you've got to be yourself before being something greater. And I think that it's great with his character in this movie. So Tony Stark is always great. Like every movie, Robert Downey Jr. is great in all these movies. Jon Favreau, I like how Jon Favreau's got a big part in this movie. He's funny because he's way more pissed off in this movie, especially dealing with Peter Parker, who's this eccentric, happy kid who wants to just be part of the action, and like Happy keeps getting more and more pissed about him. And I think it's funny because Jon Favreau is just hilarious in these movies anyways. And I like how Gwyneth Paltrow had like 30 seconds of screen time, but then she's like credited over most of the actors. I think that's really funny. I thought that she was fine. Like for the 30 seconds she was in the movie, but she was fun. I like that her and Tony are back together. I guess it didn't end in the way in Civil War. It seemed like it was dire, but rewatching it, it seems like they were just taking a break, and it makes sense in this one that she came back, I guess, after they had a break for a while. After Tony was dealing with the consequences of what he has done to the world in a lot of these movies. So that's cool that she came back for like 30 seconds, but it was a cool cameo. I like that she was in it. Hannibal Buress was in this. I thought that was really funny. Donald Glover was in this movie for briefly too. Like I think he's supposed to be Miles Morales' like uncle or something. Like I think that's who he is. He's supposed to be Aaron Davis, I think. But I think he was hilarious. Like he had a funny back and forth with Spider-Man whenever Spider-Man, who has the spider suit, but it's got all these Stark abilities with it that like Tony Stark equipped with it. So there's one scene where Peter Parker as Spider-Man has a loud demonic voice as Spider-Man with the suit, and Aaron Davis is like, he's talking to Aaron Davis, and Aaron says, "That's not your real voice. I know what a girl sounds like." Like it just was funny with the way he delivered that line. And then Spider-Man's like, I'm not a girl. And then whenever he got the information and then left, he shot his spider web onto Aaron Davis's car with his hand. So like, as Spider-Man's like, okay, I'm gonna get going. And then Aaron's like, no, wait. I get my arm free. And he's like, oh no, that'll go out in a couple hours. You're fine. And then he runs away. And then Aaron Davis is like, I have ice cream back here. Like, that was funny. And Hannibal Buress, briefly too, was hilarious because like he had a line where you see Captain America has a motivational gym video like that apparently he made after he was unfrozen, and it's hilarious because then Hannibal Buress says, and I think this guy is a war criminal, but I guess I gotta still show this video. It's required by the state. But it's funny because of that. And it's funny whenever Peter's in detention later with Michelle, and then Hannibal Buress is the one that's just there watching them, and then Peter runs out, and then Hannibal Buress just says, wait, don't go. Like he's already gone, like he didn't even try to make an effort to make him come back. And then he looks at Michelle and says, what are you doing here? And she said, you don't have detention. And she says, I'm just here to draw pictures of people in dire situation, or when they're in sad situations. And then like she shows a picture of Hannibal Buress all sad, and she just like I thought that was awesome with those two. Like the humor is really great in this movie, and these characters are really fun and sincere. It all has a really great charm to it as opposed to the other ones, which I do like the other Spider-Man movies and love a lot of them. But this one just had such a great charm to it, and it's more well made in a lot of ways. It just had a lot of great sincerity to it, and it's one of my favorite Marvel movies now. Just rewatching it again, I still think the villain's great, I still think the hero's great, I still think the humor's great, I still think the big moments are great big moments, I think the action's good. I think these characters have great arcs, and I think that overall, this one is one of my favorite MCU movies. I bet it's in the top 10, I'd say. And I really, really enjoy this movie. I think it's just a fantastic third outing, or a fantastic third iteration of Spider-Man. And you wouldn't have thought they would have made it so different, but they did in such a great way. I love how they interpreted this version, and I'm glad it was made. Just thought it was awesome. Anyways, next up is Doctor Strange. Thanks guys for watching. See you guys there.